Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, colleagues. Madam President, I beg leave of you before I get into the substantial matter before us this morning to acknowledge our newly sworn-in senators, to also acknowledge our temporary senators, and as well to say thank you to the previous two colleagues of mine who are no longer part of the Senate for their support and the way in which we work together as a team. I want to especially congratulate the two members here who have opened the batting quite well, and I wish them well. I also want to commend for the first time I have been in the House in the company of Senator Polius for a presentation, although she said that she didn't intend to speak, but I saw a well-prepared speech being delivered. But that's okay. Madam President, I want to thank the Leader of the Opposition for the additional responsibility that is placed on me in the Senate, and I intend to carry that responsibility with great regard for all of us and for the duties bestowed upon us. As has done before with our colleagues, Madam President, I want to join you and the rest of us in expressing condolences to a number of individuals. I want to start with our colleague, Senator Francis. I wish her well with her family. I also wish Senator Augier well. I was a classmate of Pastor Cornelius Emmanuel. We attended the same primary school from grade K to grade 6. He also worked with me at Domiku Secondary School for quite a few years. Good man. And at this time, it's a little emotional for me, but I wish his family well at this time. I also want to extend condolences to the family of Wilkie Larcher. His son was also a classmate of mine. So I wish Abera, Hakim, and the family well, and I hope that they can pull through. We all remember him, as our colleague senators mentioned, as a sportsman. Worked very closely with him in the football administration during my years involved in football. I also want to extend condolences to Comrade Oliver Scott, as we have heard. I don't want to say much more about that in terms of his contribution to national sport. And as well to Mrs. Doujon and her family, who also served with me in the Principals Association for some years. So, Madam President, it has been a very tough last few weeks for all of us, and I believe that our country needs to stick together and give as much courage and as much encouragement as we can to all those families. On to the business of this morning's resolution. Madam President, you did in your brief remarks to our new senators, you did mention that you would like to see, or you encourage, passionate exchange and robust debate in this House, I think, if I quote you correctly. And I think so far this morning we've seen that, and I am very happy that I'm part of this honorable House, and I intend to continue to do just that. I want to say, Madam President, from the point of departure, that the borrowing of the 3.75 million, or what we can consider just over 10 million EC for the village tourism initiative, is not a bad indication in any way that there is need for us to invest in village tourism. This opposition will never stand here and oppose any investment or any initiative that seeks to advance our cause in the area of village tourism. I am from a small rural community, and I would love to see that type of attitude being embraced where I'm from. So I will never stand here and say that we do not support village tourism as an opposition. However, Madam President, we have a responsibility to outline and to indicate aspects of the initiative that we believe can be approached differently. And we also have a responsibility as an opposition to indicate where we depart, where we differ with the way in which the government goes about the initiatives. And that's exactly what we've been doing. So unlike, I would like to disagree with my previous colleague who mentioned political divide and those types of expressions. I believe it is more about seeing it a different way, offering a different suggestion, because there's always another way, Madam President. And not because we disagree with the way you do things, suggests that we don't see any good in what you're doing. So I want to place it on the record that the opposition is not in any way against the initiative. So, Madam President, permit me now to outline a few areas of concern. First of all, I believe that the support and diversification of the tourism product is the responsibility of a sitting government. But it is also the responsibility of everyone else who is a stakeholder in the tourism industry to ensure that it is done well. And Madam President, do take note of my operative word here, diversification. Now, the tourism product, part of it is, of course, village tourism. It is a good concept, but it should include, for example, Madam President, a set of objectives that are clear. We have to be very clear on what the objective is when we speak of it. Madam President, I think one would want to believe that the objectives of the government are well intended. But I remember the Prime Minister speaking of inclusion when he made the presentation. The leader of government business this morning did not give much of a preview, but I recall from what was done previously that the intention was to have inclusion and reduce poverty, creating linkages with agriculture and so on. All of these things sound really nice. They do sound really nice. However, Madam President, we are yet to see much evidence of those linkages. And I think it is time that we stop talking about things and start showing the worth of what we're talking about. What are the linkages that we're talking about? Madam President, the money that we're borrowing is, from my observation, most of it seems to be for the infrastructure, and if I can put it in the words of the Prime Minister, to have the villages resemble the reception area of a hotel. Now, if you understand that analogy, it suggests that you are taking care of the front desk, the front area, and it's going to look nice. But, Madam President, I think we have to go beyond the reception area, because the real business of the hotel operation is not really in the front area. And so if that analogy is to be correct, I think we can go a little further. Madam President, how do you achieve this? How do you achieve these objectives that I wanted to allude to with the current state of the other supporting sectors like the agricultural sector? How do you really make good use of that initiative if the agricultural sector itself has not been properly advanced to give support to these initiatives? None of these initiatives can take place in isolation. None of them, Madam President. They have to be, and I do refer to the linkages that I mentioned in the beginning. Madam President, it seems that there is more exclusion than inclusion. And the posture of the government in the last 4.5 years has suggested that very well. After 4 budget cycles, Madam President, we are now in the 5th cycle. Despite several announcements, as we have heard, announcements of village tourism initiatives in Soufrière, in Ancillary, in Grosley, I have not seen much evidence. And I do say, Madam President, the words are nice, but we have to see the evidence. The tasting of the pudding is in the eating. So, Madam President, I have not seen the evidence of those pronouncements in the last 4.5 years, and I still wait for them. But I don't think we have much more time to wait, because the St. Lucian public, I think they've waited enough. Madam President, not even in the constituency or the community where I'm from, which happens to be the Prime Minister's constituency, that much of the evidence of that village tourism initiative has been shown. I'll give you 2 examples. There's a little community along the main road, near the main road, called Angers, And it's very close to the East Coast line. And there's quite a lot of historical information that can be attributed to that area. Amerindian artifacts and a lot of stuff that can really help to develop the village tourism product in the Prime Minister's own constituency. To the west of the community, Madam President, just by way of example, we have the Descartier trail that joins the community to Soufrière. You can actually take a 2.5-hour walk and go and enter Soufrière through that track. And these opportunities can create quite a lot in terms of employment and development for a community like the place that I'm from. So that is what I mean when I say, Madam President, that I have not seen evidence of any serious village tourism initiatives in the last 4 years, other than the talk that we've heard. So when I say stuff like this, Madam President, I am making reference not to politicize anything. I'm saying, listen, we believe village tourism is a good thing. You talk about it for 4.5 years. Start showing some worth. Start showing something. Put something on the table. Let us see that there is activity and that people are actually involved in doing certain things that they benefit from. Madam President, I will also give an example from a nearby community, Miku North. I'm sure most of us here know about the Latil area. There's a lovely waterfall and it's been a small tourist attraction area. Madam President, again, I am speaking to areas that I know well and things that can be done for village tourism. There has not been any development there. This is the place that I go to. And the proprietor has complained. So I think these are opportunities for the government to demonstrate that it's serious about village tourism in communities that do not have direct access to the tourists, like some of the areas where we have all the hotels and other facilities. This is where you can show that you embrace all the communities. And I'm sure in Dennery North, there are some similar communities or similar opportunities. So let us diversify. Let us go out there and make things happen. Madam President, I suspect that we are still talking about the trickling down effect. And I think I heard the minister in the Ministry of Tourism in her presentation this morning make specific reference to the trickling down effect. Madam President, it has long been proven that this is not a very good model, even for economics, this trickling down thing. It's almost taking a chance. You need to show that you have taken specific initiative, deliberately intended, deliberate, not by chance. So you hope that if something happens, then you have to be very direct. So I want, and I'm hoping that in the rebuttal of the Leader of Government Business, that we will be, this trickling down thing will be broken down a little bit better. So let's not trickle it down, let's break it down. So that it is very clear to us what exactly is the government saying when they mention the trickling down effect. So I look forward to that response, Madam President. Now, that $10 million that we spoke about, or we've been speaking about, I would like to know that, or how this will help to provide opportunity for the hundreds or perhaps thousands of St. Lucians who have lost their jobs, particularly in the tourism sector during the last few months with the advent of COVID. I mean, this is a serious matter. Whether you're red, yellow, blue, or green, St. Lucians are suffering, and I think the previous presenter made reference to that. We need to know as a people, not as an opposition and red and yellow, we need to know as St. Lucians how $10 million that is going to be invested in an initiative is going to redound to real employment opportunities and relief for the hundreds and thousands of St. Lucians who have lost their jobs in the last few months. I do not understand any politics in that, Madam President. I hope it's not being misconstrued that just because we sit on this side of the House and we make an observation or we make a point, that is political. This is a political environment. But let us not be too quick to just cast a political shadow over everything that is being said on this side of the House. I think it is unfair and it is not the way we should proceed. So I am hoping again that there will be specific examples and perhaps policy statements, if I can say, because we are policymakers, regarding how some of this money will be used to ensure that some relief is brought to those tourism sector workers and persons who are dependent on them to get some relief. Madam President, I'm going to wind down. So I just want to ask another question, and I would like again to have serious consideration placed on that. How do we measure the impact of the initiatives that we are going to take? We have to be able to measure that, because if we're going to spend $10 million on anything, we can't just throw the money out there and just hope that it trickles down again. We have to have some kind of mechanism in place to measure the impact. And that can be given back to the people so they can say, listen, we put $3.5 million out of this initiative into X initiative or into X project, and these are the returns after the first 6 months. Madam President, this is the kind of question that we would want to ask. And I hope that, that there'll be, within the next 6 months, there'll be enough time for the government to give that kind of feedback. Because the people have been waiting for that for a very long time. And in this tenure for at least 4.5 years. Madam President, sometimes we behave in this little country of ours, this beautiful Helen of the West, as if we have some sovereign and some special influence over what happens in our source markets, our tourism source markets. Madam President, we have to be a little more realistic, both with the statements that we make and in the expectations that we have when it comes to the tourism product. Any initiative that you're going to take in the area of tourism development, and in this case, the village tourism product, you have to make sure that you are not making assumptions that are unrealistic. In this little country of ours, Madam President, in the Helen of the West, we have none or very little control over what happens in our source markets. And we have heard and seen what is going on now in the US. We are not sure about the future policies with a change of government administration in the US. We have just heard of what is happening in the United Kingdom. These are two of our main source markets, without question. The borders are now closed in England. So we have to think about the implications of the implications that are there for us when things happen in countries that we have no control over. Let us not behave as if we have some guarantee down the line that things are going to remain the same, and we continue to invest money in projects and in initiatives without giving much thought to what is going to happen in the next few months. So when I mention those things, Madam President, I am demonstrating on this side of the house that we are just as concerned about the welfare and the future of our country and the investments that we're making as anyone else. Because I'm telling you, Madam President, we do not know in the next 6 months whether the US borders will be closed too. We don't know that. So, Madam President, let us demonstrate some measure of responsibility and open-mindedness when we make those pronouncements in this honorable house. Let us demonstrate that. I think we have that quality among us, and let us demonstrate that. So, Madam President, since we have no control over those issues and those situations beyond our shores, I believe that we have to leave some room. We have to leave some room for us to maneuver in the event that things do not turn out the way that we anticipated. In the last 4.5 years, Madam President, to sum up, I want to say that I do not believe that there has been enough vision. There's been a lack of diversity of the tourism sector, and the government has not given enough thought to some of the unpredictable events that are now with us. Madam President, I believe that given the fragility and the vulnerability of our country, our small states, with the advent of COVID, we have been exposed, and we must be very careful going forward. I also believe that, Madam President, things like the airport tax and hotels and jazz and some of the other investments or the activities that we would rely on to support all aspects of tourism are now under threat. And village tourism is not in any way isolated from those. And so, Madam President, we must not behave that at the 11th hour, a few months before elections are due, that we borrow 3.75 million US or 10 million EC, and that we would have solved any problem. I believe that we need to be a lot more responsible, a lot more open-minded, a lot more prepared to rethink our position, and that if the government had an intention to do something and the circumstances have changed, there is nothing wrong in coming back to the electorate and say, listen, we had intended to borrow this money to do this, but in light of the new circumstances, we have had to rethink our position. There's nothing wrong with that. St. Lucians understand that, and the opposition understands that too. So, Madam President, I think one more thing that I noted, and I want to make reference to one of the justification points that the Prime Minister attempted to make when he was presenting. And the justification was that there were some attractive rates available at the time that we were borrowing, so we should have taken advantage of that. Madam President, not because you walk up to Baywalk Mall and you see a big sale by Access or one of those places, you have $20 in your pocket, but when you get there, you see a big sale, advertise everything going for free, and you had not made specific plans to spend that money, that you should jump into the sale and take advantage because it's cheaper. Sometimes we have to let those things pass. I don't see that being any justification for borrowing $10 million, just because the rates are attractive. Even if the rates are attractive, if you have demonstrated to me and you've justified to me that it was necessary, fine. You get it at an attractive rate, take it. But don't tell me that just because there was an opportunity to get something cheap or something at a more competitive rate, that this is why you go ahead and borrow. That does not justify the borrowing to me. And I think that this kind of thinking demonstrates some of what I was saying. There must be prudent thought in what we're doing and not reacting to opportunities just because they are there. So, Madam President, with that in mind, I want to say that the opposition, again, is in no way opposed to village tourism, but the opposition is saying that we have difficulty with some of the justification that has been provided, some of what has gone on before that has not shown enough fruit, and that we hope that the government is going to demonstrate, and we want them to demonstrate to us what specifically, how these initiatives will specifically bring relief, particularly in the current situation that we are in. I look forward to that response from the leader of government business, and I hope that we will all be a little more comfortable and satisfied by the time we get that response. Thank you, Madam President.